Hi, I'm Jeanne Fiorini. Thanks for being here at the Tarot Tips. Today's installment is probably going to be extremely fascinating to some of you and extremely pointless and boring to others of you. It's not an experience that I've had with the tarot per se, but it's regarding a book that I've had on my shelf for many years. It caught my eye the other day, and I just found it so interesting and wanted to share a little bit of what I discovered from this little book. It's called Fortune Telling with Cards, the Art Fully Explained, Easily Acquired. Now there's some important points about this that I would like to talk about, but the main point of even making this video as a part of the Tarot Tips is to let people know / remind people that when you pick up your tarot cards, you are participating in a long line historically of intelligent, curious, progressive people who have tried to explore the depths of consciousness, explore the meaning of life, who have struggled and examined and spent their lives trying to understand the nature of our existence. That's a pretty big calling. The tarot cards are a part of this search throughout history. Now, I'm not a tarot scholar. If you're interested in the history and the scholarly aspects of tarot, I highly recommend you seek out Mary Greer, Rachel Pollack, any other of the tarot mavens that we have available to us to talk about and to learn about the scholarly historical aspects of the tarot. I'm just going to today talk a little bit about some of the things that I found fascinating about this little, pamphlet-like book, which I found on my shelf the other day. First of all, we have this really kind of stereotypical picture on the cover of the book. Here we have Fortune Telling, the Art Fully Explained, Easily Acquired. And here we have the reader with her querent, and they are having their discussion over the cards on the table. Written by Professor P.R.S. Foley. So, with Google available to us, I took a look at who is Professor P.R.S. Foley. And it turns out that it's a man by the name of Sir Arthur Pearson, who was this is an honorary title. He was a baronet of the British Empire, first baronet of the British Empire. Apparently, he was a very prosperous and well-known newspaper magnate and publisher. But he wrote books about metaphysics under the synonym Professor P.R.S. Foley. He wrote books about dream interpretation and handwriting analysis, as well as, quote, fortune telling. Now, this man died in 1921. When I was looking to see, okay, when was this book published? First of all, I run across the beautiful name of the person who originally owned this book, Pearl Rose. Look at that beautiful handwriting. And when you look inside here, on the title page, we can see the publisher's name, but there is no date. So the publisher is Advanced Thought Publishing Company from Chicago, Illinois. So thank you, Google. I looked that up and ran across even a more impressive historical link. Advanced Thought Publishing was the creation of William Walker Atkinson, who throughout his life had wore many hats. He was an attorney, a merchant, a publisher, and an author. I don't know if these days you could really be all four of those things, but this is something that William Walker Atkinson accomplished during his life. He also worked under very many pseudonyms and wrote, it is said, 100 books in the last 30 years of his life, mostly having to do with metaphysical and, quote, occult ideas. So he had this, on one hand, kind of traditional personal experience in the work world as an attorney and a merchant, but really in the last 30 years of his life became, I was going to use the word entranced, enamored, and captivated with metaphysical ideas. He was the first president of the New Thought Alliance. The New Thought Alliance, or the New Thought Movement, sometimes called the Higher Thought Movement, is a spiritual movement that developed in the U.S. in the latter part of the 19th century. Listen to some of these ideas which were being explored and developed at that time by this International New Thought Alliance. They concern themselves with metaphysics, positive thinking, the law of attraction, healing, life force, creative visualization, and personal power. New Thought holds that infinite intelligence, or God, is everywhere, and spirit is the totality of real things. True selfhood is divine. Divine thought is a force for good. Sickness originates in the mind. And, quote, right thinking has a healing effect. So even though this is not a doctrine per se, it was a belief system that attracted many people from many different sectors of communities and intellectual life. It's interesting to me that I watched just yesterday a very progressive physicist on a YouTube channel talking about the power of the mind to heal, and he wasn't talking about it in a spiritualist way. He was talking about it in a way that's been mathematically proven by physics. So it's very interesting to me that this, quote, New Thought movement, has been cooking at least for the last 150 years, probably before that. And that this book is just a tiny little piece of what someone deems valuable to be publishing about that. Now, it's interesting to me that essentially this book is talking about fortune telling with playing cards. This doesn't even have to do with the tarot as we know it today. So if we open up toward the back, you can see there's this much of the book. The very, very last couple of pages has to do with the tarot. And I'm going to read from this little section here. It is to be observed that the tarots are not universally known in the present day, and at the few places where they are sold, a fairly high price is asked for them in comparison with the cost of an ordinary pack of playing cards. And so for that reason, this author doesn't necessarily go into the tarot. So when this book was written, which I'm going to guess, if this particular man died in 1921, I'm going to say this book was written or published sometime between 1900 and 1910, that tarot was not readily available. And if you did want to get your hands on one, apparently it was going to cost you a pretty penny. But the last thought I want to leave you with, we could go into this a little bit more, but I'm not going to for our purposes today. I like this little segment where he talks about the purpose and the value of doing this kind of work. Anyone observing the rules, there we go. Anyone observing the rules can learn the significance of the cards, and while a study of the combinations they resolve into the hands of different people will always provide a fund of amusement, it may also, in all seriousness I say it, inspire hope in the place of despair, assuage sorrow, and send the inquirer away comforted. Surely no insignificant result. So 110, 20 years later, this is still what we're trying to do. We're still trying to assuage sorrow, send the inquirer away comforted, and reminding ourselves that this surely is no insignificant result. So with that, easily acquired, artfully explained. We'll see you next time.